We know about three types right now. We know about integers, floats, and strings. We're now going to learn a fourth type, which is called a Boolean. A Boolean is a way to represent a yes or no situation, true or false, 1 or 0. If you've ever heard the term binary, that's exactly what a float is. It's either this thing or that. So you may be thinking, that's kind of a weird type. What sort of situation would that come under? A really common one is, for example, is saying whether something is on or off. So for example, if I want to make a variable that represents whether my light is on or off, I can say light is on, and I can set this either to true or false. This is that new type, which is a Boolean. So if we want it to be true, to say yes, the light is on, we say capital true. And you'll notice we don't put any double quotes around it. It's not a number. It's its own thing here. It's either capital true or it's capital false. If I did try to put double quotes around this, this goes from a Boolean that's equal to false to a string that's equal to the word false. So it's really important that it's just the word there, capital true or capital false. So really, that's all the possibilities for a Boolean. It's either true or it's false, which is really interesting to think about because integers, it could be any amount of huge numbers. Floats can go to very specific numbers. Strings could be any combination of letters and characters, but a Boolean is either true or it is false. Those are the only two options. So you may be saying, what is the point of a Boolean? Why would we ever want this type? It just seems so useless. Well, they really show their value when they're used with something called an if statement. So an if statement takes our code and, in my opinion, really brings it to life. It's almost as if now you're in a choose your own adventure story because you can make different decisions depending on whether a Boolean is true or false. So for example, let's say if the light is on, we want to print out some information to the console that says, hey, the light's on. Okay. What we can do is use an if statement to say if space, and then we're going to type out light is on, and then we're going to do a colon. Okay. And this is saying, okay, if this light is on Boolean is equal to true, then on the next line, we want to run the following code. So I'm going to print out here, and I'm going to say something like the light is on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this, and I just want you to see this. When the Boolean light is on is equal to true, we see in the console it says the light is on. If I change this to false, look what happens when we run. We get nothing, which is so cool. Our code now is able to make some decisions. On line 8, where it says print out the light is on, that code only gets run if line 7, where it says, is light on equal to true or false? If it's equal to true, it's going to run that code. If it's equal to false, it will not run that code. So one last tidbit that I'd like to show you here is that when you have an if statement, you have if space, the name of the Boolean that you're checking, and then a colon. That next line, you'll notice, is a little bit separated. It's a couple spaces over. You can also do this if you hit a tab. It will move that over for you. But the important point is that tab is very important. Any code that's tabbed over after that if statement is going to run. So for example, I can print out lots of different things here. I'm just going to say like hello, for instance. Let's change light is on back to true. And if we run this, look, both of these lines get run. But if we set this back to false, none of these get run. And that's because they're tabbed over. You'll notice if I take this one that says hello and I bring it back to the very left so it's not tabbed over and I hit run, it's still going to run even though light is on is equal to false. It's just with an if statement, any code that is after the if statement that's tabbed over, that will be run. If things are not tabbed over, they won't. So that's an important style thing to notice in Python. Okay, so to make sure that you got a good grasp on what Booleans are, I'd like you to find something around you that could be represented by a Boolean and make a variable to represent it. Go ahead, hit pause, do that now. Now, there's likely a lot of different digital things around you. You're probably watching this on a computer, and you could make a variable that says, is computer on or off? Again, that sort of power on, power off is a great example for using a Boolean. One that I thought of that I thought would be a little bit fun is whether my baby is sleeping or not. He's essentially either awake or asleep. Sometimes it can seem like he's in the middle of the two, but I thought this would be a fun example. So I'm going to say baby is asleep, and I'm going to set that equal to true. He's napping right now, and he is in the true Boolean situation.